everyone. Welcome to the webinar on export opportunities by understanding free trade agreements. By again our one more Saturday evening with Abhidi sir on export, import and foreign trade webinar. So it's not new for you all to have a session from Abhidi sir, but I'll just like to have only 1 minute of introduction that Abhidi sir has been associated with AMA as our GOG AMA research, our Center for International Trade Research Advisor, is our editor of Foreign Trade Update, our monthly newsletter, which is published for foreign trade, for spreading the news about foreign trade. And he's also helping us in making many of the sector-wise and country-specific handbooks, various study reports and other notes related to foreign trade and export-import. With this note, I would request Abhidi sir, please take over. Participants, I request you all to keep your videos off during the lecture, keep your mics on, and whatever questions or queries you have, put it in the chat box. And for more queries, you can also download the ebook from our website, or you can purchase the hard copy of the same book from our media center for more detailed information. Over to you, Abhidi sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, friends. So we again meet for another session of programs related to export import. This is a little tricky program. Today's it's not so straightforward because it contains a lot of technical information which generally is not known to exporters, and sometimes they find it very difficult to navigate their way through the various free trade agreements. India has several free trade agreements with Asian countries. Asian means ASEAN, ASEAN, Sri Lanka, Japan, Korea. And we are negotiating some more. Unfortunately, India refused to sign the RCEP agreement after several years of taking part in the negotiations for certain reasons, which I will come forward. But before FTA, I would like to make one thing clear that FTA helps only those countries which are globally competitive. And between two countries, FTA helps only if their products are complementary. If there are two countries which have similar types of products, FTA does not help. Their economy should be complementary. For example, India and Japan very much. India needs a lot of products from Japan, and Japan also needs, although we are not able to export so much to Japan as we should and as the potential demands. But situation can change. I will take one or two examples to show how we can increase our exports to Japan, Korea, and other countries which with which we have a bilateral trade agreement, but we refuse to sign the multilateral trade agreement, which is agreement between several countries. So let us go back to our slides, and then I will take you one by. So what is a free trade agreement? Generally, it is known that they are international agreements. Aim is to reduce all the barriers to trade so that the volume of trade increases between two partners. Now, these two partners can be two countries, two regions, a country and a region. There are many, many different types of free trade agreements. Definitely, it expands export market. It reduces imported input costs because many of our products which are exported to other countries, they also have inputs from countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Japan, Korea, etc. So input cost is reduced. For example, we buy cheap coffee from Vietnam and reprocess them and send a value-added coffee to Russia. So it's not that we don't produce coffee. We also produce coffee, but There are many reasons why we have to import coffee. There can be a deficiency in production, price difference can be there, and so many other reasons. Then electronics, many parts we import, they go into our products. We import auto components, they go into our auto exports. So like that, it reduces the cost of our exports. Many of these free trade agreements also have provisions for bilateral investments, protection of investments, and so on. Similarly, when we invest outside, free trade agreement also helps outside investors to invest in this country. So it works both ways. It is not a one-sided agreement. Generally, the countries, they negotiate for long period of time before they come to an agreement. In fact, after India was negotiating for almost for 10 years before it withdrew from RCEP, but that is not exceptional. The European Union and the Mercosur is a group of 5 countries in South America. They were negotiating for last 18 years. And when the EU delivered the agreement to its members, Netherlands refused to sign it. And so again, unless all the countries involved sign the agreement, it cannot be implemented. So after 18 years, they have again to go back and revise their terms and conditions. So it is a very, very lengthy and a very protected negotiations. It can go on for years and years. Then overseas services market, this is a new area, that new trade agreements, they include services. Earlier, they only were limited to tariff reductions, but now they are also including services. They also simplify customs and trade matters between these two partners. Of course, negative is that foreign goods can enter a country at lower cost, disrupting the local industry. Now, it is for the government to protect these things, what can be imported, what cannot be imported, and put various types of barriers to ensure that in any agreement, we are not left with any avenue for disruption of our industry. Free trade should help our industries. It should not disrupt our industries. But we have seen that because of poor negotiations or other reasons, off and on, these things happen. Not only in India, but in other countries also. Besides tariff reduction, many countries put non-tariff barriers, like put excessive quality controls, various kinds of certification, increasing cost to the exporter. All these barriers are there to protect local industry and also to protect the human and animal of that country from any aspect, any trade matters or any product like food or pharmaceuticals. So these products do not allow unrestricted entry. The engineering products, lot of technical standards are there, and different countries impose certain standards. So all these things are barriers to trade. Now, along with reduction in tariff, the governments also try to reduce the non-tariff barriers, which at times they are not successful. It is not that other countries put non-tariff barriers on Indian products. India also put a lot of non-tariff barriers on other products, and these matters generally end up in the WTO, which is the World Trade Organization. It ends up there for reconciliation or for their ruling. Last year, India lost a big case against US, and these things off and on come and they create friction between two countries. Every FTA is different. India-ASEAN FTA is different from the overall factors may be the same, but products, how much reduction, when they will start, how long they will, all these things are different for different. So it's important that you go to the site, which is where this information is available. The site is Indian Trade Portal. This is the name of the site. It is from Director General Foreign Trade, where you will find details of all the products and all the various conditions and terms of the various free trade agreements. And also, if you put your HS code, it will tell you what is the duty in a particular country, like in Malaysia or in Singapore. Singapore is exceptional, that except for 6 items, everything is duty free for India. So otherwise, Malaysia and in Indonesia, only about 50% products are duty free. So all these things you can get from the Indian Trade Portal. And you can also subscribe to their news magazine, which will give you updated information from time to time. Now, there are various levels of trade agreement depending upon what kind of integration the country wants with other countries. Because every time you have an agreement, you give up certain rights. Now, for example, in European Union, each country has given up certain rights so that the European Union has one law regarding tariff. Throughout European Union, whether you take it Netherlands or whether you take it France or you take it at Poland, import duty are the same, import terms and conditions are the same. So it is not up to Poland to impose certain things. So you give up certain rights, country, to have certain greater benefits. But the simplest one is preferential trade agreement. That means we give a number of items. We give that this is our 300 items for which we accept, we will take those products from the country with which we are signing preferential trade agreement or PTA. We will give them certain duty reduction. And same thing, it is bilateral, same thing will be given by the other country. Now, India is now, since UK is out of the European Union, India is trying to sign a PTA with UK before signing a FTA, a full fair trade, because PTA requires very little negotiation. It's not a matter of give and take. It's simply a matter of, this is our offer, you bring your offer, and then we will put it through. Now, under India's preferential trade agreement with Chile, with Mercosur countries, both India and these countries have given between 10 and 20% reduction in their import duties, and same India has done. On a range of products, the list you can have from the book, handbook, which I have written and which you can get from AMA, or you can go to the Indian Trade Portal site and it will tell you that these are the HS code of products for which Indian exports to Brazil are subject to 20% or 10% reduction in duty. For example, one item is cumin, Zira. Zira is subject to, so now Zira coming from another country, if it does not have any agreement with Mercosur, its products will be at least 10% or 15% or 20% more expensive. So PTA is the lowest form of, and it is very easy to bring about. Next is free trade agreement that we give up to 80 to 90% our products over a period of time that these products will attract no import duty. Now with ASEAN, almost, and there is a time scale that 70% products within 5 years, then 10% products within another 10 years. Like that, maybe 10, 15 years, over a period of 10, 15, about 90% products come under the free trade agreement. Under, if it is not 90%, then it is not considered a free trade agreement. So India's most of the agreements with other countries, it generally covers all the products except agricultural products. None of India's agreements with any country includes duty-free import of agricultural products. That means agricultural and dairy products. It is to protect our poor farmers from indiscriminate and large-scale imports of these products. Otherwise, for all engineering products, for all chemical products, for all types of various metals, various types of tiles and things like, by and large, it's duty free. Now we have with ASEAN and Malaysia, generally CECA and CEPA, they are the same. Sometimes the countries put different terminology, but these are different from free trade agreement because they include services. Then comes after free trade agreement comes the custom union. For example, Europe Union is a customs union. That means throughout length and breadth of European Union, there is only one import tariff and only one import rules and regulations. Very recently, on 1st of January of this year, the entire African continent has become a customs union. All 52 out of 54 countries, except probably Eritrea and I don't know, I think Libya, where there is a lot of some problems are going on internal. All other countries have made their, now within next 2-3 years, they will frame rules and regulations for import. And once that is there, probably by 2023, it was delayed due to COVID, we will have a complete continent to export with just one set of rules and one set of tariff. Whether you export through Mombasa port, whether you export through Durban port, or you export through Dar es Salaam port, it does not matter. It is the same duty. And once you export through Dar es Salaam port, you can re-export through any of the 52 countries without further border checking. So it is a very good opportunity to reach a 1.2 billion market. Then common market is there where you have common currencies like Euro and the 4 countries in West Africa, they also have a common currency. So like that, this is and then economic union, it further binds the countries through various free movement of people, banking restrictions are not there. Similar, everything is the same in any of these countries. So these are the 5 levels. India has not gone to 3, 4, and 5 with any country. Only 1 and 2 are there. So CECA and CEPA, which we have with, and we have with Korea, we have with Malaysia, Singapore, and Japan. It includes services, that is banking services, insurance services. Under certain conditions, they can offer these services in each other's countries. Free movement of people. And this I will come later because this year itself, Indian government has signed an agreement with Japan so that Indian professionals can go and work there. We'll come a little later. Now these require certain things like mutual recognition authority. That means what degree is equivalent to which degree in which country. For example, our BA LLB, is it the same as there? So this is called Mutual Recognition Authority, and these India, it is University Grants Commission. In different countries, it is different bodies. They decide which degrees are equivalent to their foreign degree, so that people can work in each other's country without further subject to any test or any duty scrutiny and things like that. So essential on free trade agreement are tariffs, reduction of tariff, total elimination of tariffs. And there are many books available. For example, India, Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement that you can download from the website, or you can go to Indian Trade Portal. Reasonable period. Now reasonable can extend up to 20 years, that within 20 years, 90% of the products will be covered under free trade agreement, that is zero tariff. A small number of products are each country can keep free of, and for that you either ban the import or you put high duties. As I said, agricultural products generally India keep out of any agreements. So it contains two lists: positive list, products on which duty is to be reduced, and negative list, products on which duty is not reduced. So when you are going to export to a country, you must see what are the products HS code in positive list and what are the products in negative list. The one in negative list will not attract any reduction, but the ones in positive list will have zero or in PTA certain percentage in reduction of duties. So there are some products which are given special treatment. We will not go into that. It is a very rare thing. So for non-members, for example, India, Sri Lanka, non-members, that means India and Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, India and Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Pakistan, India and UAE, Sri Lanka, and both have separate dealing. Our India-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement does not cover any reduction or any concession to third countries. Now, apart from bilateral agreements, we have now seen many mega pacts. One is Trans-Pacific Alliance. That means 10 countries. USA has left, but under Biden, it may join again. Under Obama, they had reached an agreement, but Trump moved US out of this agreement, just like India withdrew from RCEP. But now Biden wants again to rejoin. So this is one agreement which is Japan, Peru, all these countries which are facing the Pacific Ocean, they are part of this agreement. Then transatlantic, US, Canada, and European Union. This also has been pending because of the Brexit problem. Now the Brexit is out. Again, this negotiation will start. It is not an easy negotiation. There are a lot of problems between US and European Union. And last year, they have both increased duty on, just like US has increased duty on Chinese goods, they have also increased duty on European goods. And as a retaliation, Europe has also increased duty on certain, primarily the aircraft parts. But now, probably they will again go back to the negotiating table and they will negotiate. Britain will have to have a separate treaty with US. Already it has signed a treaty with European Union, and which was from 1st of this year, it was implemented. This is a RCEP, that means Regional Cooperative Partnership. This is India has withdrawn, but now it will, other countries have signed. So we'll see this action in about 3 to 4 years. Immediately when it's implemented, it does not see action. First of all the countries' parliament have to approve it. And they have to deposit that approval with a central agency, whichever they have chosen. And then they decide the dates for implementation. So it may be another maybe year or so before it is actually starts. Then this I have already explained to you. This started from first of this year. It is very important for India, although India is not part of it. Because of the existence of this treaty, what developments will take place, we will come back a little later. Mercosur, 11 South American countries, EU, 28 countries. These are some of the here actually this is an old map. This is Nigeria. It has rejoined. It has walked out, but again rejoined. This is African continental. It will have 1.27 billion people, almost the population of India. Middle class itself will be 600 million, which is the size of Asian countries, 600 million. And many of these countries are growing at between 5 to 9 to 10%. So a large middle class is growing, which requires a lot of consumption items. Online itself is targeted that it will be 75 billion. Today it is 24 billion. But unfortunately, we are not taking advantage of that. I have shown or I have conducted programs earlier also on e-commerce, that e-commerce is the easiest way to enter a foreign market, but somehow for some reason we are sleeping over it. Not only we, our government, our export promotion agencies, our trade chambers of commerce. I have yet to come across any positive note or report or anything to deal with e-commerce market, as if it does not exist. And we will pay a big price for that, because this is the easiest market to enter. Along with that, B2B businesses will increase, and the large market means more and more industries will come and make that Africa their base. That means they will be importing more and more intermediate materials. They don't produce any chemicals. They will be importing chemicals. They don't produce any engineering goods. They will be importing engineering goods. If they want to make, for example, assemble two-wheelers, they need all the engine parts, etc. They don't have forging and casting industry in Africa. If they want to set up a pharma company, they have to import pharma bulk drugs. They have to import flavors, colors for syrups and things like that. So it will be a big import market in the future. Now we go a little faster. Now this is the one which India did not sign. This again is a population of 3.4 billion, almost 50% of world's population, of course, because it includes China. If India was there, it would have made 60% of the population. So 40% of the global growth GDP is in this region. Why did India did not sign? Just one or two lines. Already China is dumping its products. When you reduce the duty or eliminate duties, they will dump more, because China's companies, Chinese government, Chinese banks, they work in behind a certain fog or a veil. We do not know what kind of agreements they have between themselves. Most of the Chinese companies are owned by the government. Most of the banks are owned. So they manipulate the prices, everything, and they also force their companies to toe a certain line, which even the private companies to a certain line, which the government wants for its strategic interest. Recently, you must have seen that Jack Ma was punished for speaking out of turn against the government, and after that, he is not visible in any commercial manner. Government allows him to, show his face here and there, sometime playing golf, but not on any active matters. So longer time frame to eliminate tariff, up to 20 years is there. India wanted 20 years so that its industries can come up and become globally competitive. Other countries did not agree. So this is another reason. So dumping, what India wanted, automatic triggers that at a certain level of pricing or at certain level of costing, mechanism of anti-dumping mechanism will start. Other countries did not agree. They said take item by item. This is a most important, that liberal country of origin. Country of origin means this is the most critical aspects of any free trade agreement. That means to what extent the product being imported is manufactured in the country of origin. For example, if we are importing a car from Thailand, and here we will take Thailand to be Asian. So with under our agreement with Asian countries, any import from Asian must have minimum of 35% FOB cost within that country. That means 35%, if the import value is 100 rupees, it can take imported parts worth 65 rupees, but 35 rupees must be within that country. India thought that 35% is very low. It opens our industries for dumping through third countries. India wanted it to be minimum of 50%. Many of the international free trade agreement, it is minimum of 50%. NAFTA between Mexico, US and Canada, it is 62%, which will rise to 68% when the new agreement is implemented. So the RCEP wanted it to remain 35%, which was very dangerous for India, because China will export its products to Vietnam. There they will go some labeling change or some sort of a change of bring new cover for a mobile and things like that, and quietly export it to India. No, India wanted minimum 50%, so this was the most important issue. So, but at the end of the day, we have to admit that our industries are not globally competitive. If our mobile industry is globally competitive, we don't mind bring any equipment from any place. Our Indian products will stand against them in quality, in features, in price. But that is not happened. So main thing is that our except for a few areas such as automotive, our industries are not competitive enough to have a free hand in import and export. We still need a lot of protection. So this we have our FTA with our NAFTA, as I said, was 68%, but still our exports to NAFTA countries has risen very fast. Even though we are the 6th largest exporter of automotive products to Mexico, even though Mexico autos require 62% parts made in Mexico for free of duty export to US. Still we are, so our exports are rising in both the countries where we don't have any trade agreement and where the country of origin rules are very strict. As you can see in all these countries, and against this, our countries in ASEAN, our exports have not risen that far. Our balance of trade with China is very low. Almost we export 1/3 of the imports from China. So this has been a big fear that we will be a dumping ground for all these countries. Dairy product especially, it's not only a question of China, question is also of Australia and New Zealand, that as you can see, our dairy industry is very large, but it is very uncompetitive. And if we open our dairy industry without duty to New Zealand, even our biggest company, Amul, will have to close down. That is the kind of efficiency which is there in the New Zealand and Australian dairy industry. And this is one of the reasons why our agreement with the European Union is stalled, because we don't want to open our dairy industry and our food industry to European imports. Now, India says that we will go for bilateral agreement with Australia, New Zealand, so that we can control what we want. We may put certain quotas, certain other things, which is not possible in a multilateral agreement. You see, India and Asian agreement was signed, but all the countries have not given equal access to India. India has given 75% access of its products to these countries. But as you can see, Indonesia has only given 50%. So, and major these countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, the big importers, they have put a lot of non-tariff barriers on our products. We cannot export our pharmaceutical products to these countries in great quantity. So that is to protect their local industry. But they have taken advantage of Asian to export more to India, and they have put barriers to stop or reduce the exports from India. So these are the various reasons why India did not sign the RCEP, and now India also has asked Asian countries to come and review this agreement. This agreement is not working to our advantage. So that negotiation was waiting for RCEP to be over. Now that negotiation will start. Only Singapore has given us full freedom, except for 6 products such as firearms, etc. All Indian products enjoy duty-free access into Singapore. So this also is part of our agreement with Singapore, Japan, Korea, and Malaysia, but we have not made any progress in this regard. For example, export of services like IT services, these countries have put a lot of barriers, and this is the reason, one of the reasons also why India did not sign the RCEP, because India wanted a lot of freedom to export our strength, which is IT. Software is our strength, but these countries they only put into merchandise goods. So these are various reasons why we are not satisfied with the agreements we have already signed. This I have already told you, so I don't want to go any, but it has certain advantages. Let us say, just 2 conditions you must fulfill in this RC. Number 1, how much value is added. Under various agreements, it is different value. For example, if India exports to Thailand any item, it must show that 35% value addition has taken place in India. And that is the reason why in diamonds, none of the countries we have any agreement. All diamond exports are now at full, because we can only add 26% value. That is the labor cost of cutting diamonds. It has no other, we don't put any other value addition into it. Only when you export jewelry, then you put additional value. Second is that the product which you are exporting, it must have a different HS classification than the components which go into its manufacturing. So you cannot say that I have, I imported rice from Bangladesh, I have cleaned it, polished it, graded it, packed it, and sent it to Thailand, give me 0%. No, HS code remains the same. So HS code must also change, as well as the addition of 35. So it becomes a little complex for many of the exporters to understand and take full advantage of this. So the low level processing is excluded from all rules of origin, like, as I said, grading, cleaning, all these things. It must include substantial manufacturing or processing, like manufacturing of card. So the essential document here is certificate origin, which is issued by the agency which is designated by this agreement. And most of the agencies are, I don't want to further, do this. You can see yourself this calculation. For example, pneumatic rotary type tool, it uses two materials, but the final good is a different HS code. Now this can go, provided it is above 35% value addition. So this is the type of calculation you have to do. Now you can imagine the type of calculation required in export of complicated products like auto, motorcycle, etc. So now it has a lot of misuse is there in CU. I don't want to go into great detail into the misuse. Of course, it is the alertness of the custom department which ensures that these are not misused. Now I don't want to, again, I will leave all these slides for you to see what is the, all these things are now over. Now 90% products are already into this period is over. All these products now, 90% products are already in the list of positive list. Non-tariff barriers for food products and pharmaceutical, it is SPS, sanitary and phytosanitary, and for technical products, for engineering products, it is technical barriers like standards, quality standards and norms, etc. So many of the countries use lot of these because they are not covered under the free trade agreement. They use these tools to restrict the import of certain products, mostly under the pressure from their local industry. Now, how does India manufacturer can benefit from India Asian Free Trade Agreement? That we are a biggest supplier of exporter of shrimps, but processing is more advanced in Thailand, so we can take our shrimps to Thailand. It is duty free, and Thai manufacturer will process, and we can send it throughout the world. Now I don't want to go into deeper into it. These are the various. I will straight away go into how to take advantage of. You can go and read these slides at leisure. And then if you have any queries, you are welcome to come back to us. Now this is something new. I would like to add that India and Japan signed an agreement early this year to give skilled Indian workers access to Japanese job market. Japanese job market is one of the closest job markets in the world. They don't allow anything, but since last 2 years, Japan's have one of the most liberalized permanent resident visa system. Yet earlier it used to be 10 years residence. Now it is only 1 year's residence, because they want skilled people. They are short of skilled people in very, very important areas. So all these people, but most of them, they are looking at our software professionals to go and work. And according to the Japanese Foreign Trade Organization, JETRO, almost 2 lakh people can go and work there. There is so much demand within next few years. Most unrealized potential is our agro exports. The additional under $100 billion we can add if we are able to export more of our agricultural products. India, although we are the second largest producer of fruits and vegetables, our share in most of these products is very poor. For example, we are production number 2 vegetables, but export number 14, just above Myanmar. So these are some of the, that mango we are number 1 producer, but export number 10, banana, coconut, pomegranate, cashew. From our monopoly exports, we were the first to export cashew in the world. Now we are an importer, net importer. So similarly, for horticulture products, these are the products where we are number 1, number 2. For example, lime, lemon. It's called lime because we produce that small variety called lime. The big variety is called lemon. So all these products we are number 1, number 2, and many of these products since COVID are seeing jump in consumption. For example, cauliflower. Now you are seeing is cauliflower on pizza topping also. You see, eggplant. Japan is a big importer of eggplant, but not from India. I can go on and on about products. Only good thing which has come out of last 5 years is our export of finger chips. In 2015, till 2015, we were net importer of finger chips. But last year, in 2019, we exported 30,000 tons. And as you know, entire Southeast Asia, Japan, Australia, Korea, they don't grow any potato. They don't grow any onion. Everything is imported. For example, Korea is the biggest per capita consumer of onions in the world. But it is not among our top 10 countries. You see. So there is a lot of unrealized potential is there, provided our exporters and our export promotion agencies, etc., put their head together and find you can only export those products for which there is a demand. Now, fresh fruits and vegetables, the demand is only in the neighboring countries like Gulf. Beyond that, there is no export of fresh vegetables. Then you have to go to frozen exports or dehydrated exports. Now, except for onion, we have a very little dehydrated vegetable export market, demand for which is increasing because of these delivery to home and these cloud kitchens and these commercial kitchens. Their demand has increased after COVID, and they are demanding more and more of frozen and dehydrated vegetables. Frozen export vegetable market, India's share is only we are 26th rank, in spite of having a number 2 production, and almost 25 to 30% of our vegetable goes to waste. We are not able to, because we don't have those kind of infrastructure to export frozen vegetables to various countries. For example, eggplant, India is the biggest producer, but Japan buys frozen eggplants from Vietnam because they produce eggplant in slices. Now, frozen vegetable is not sold whole. It is sold in consumable packs, slices, small, like cauliflower is in either in powder form, or it is in small flowerets. You see, each flower in a cauliflower is called a floweret. So you have to cut that, clean that, pack them. So frozen food, frozen vegetable is not sold whole. Frozen vegetable is generally sold in ready to consume packs. Now we say that our exports are not rising to Japan. I will just give you one example. Ecuador, a very, very small country which has no trade agreement with Japan, it exports $52 million worth of vegetable, while India's export to Japan was 4.7 million. When we further drill down to frozen vegetable, entire supply of Ecuador to Japan is in frozen form. But India, when we come to frozen exports, only 1.3 million, and total exports are 45 million throughout the world, when the trading is 6.6 billion. So you see, unless you have products which are demanded in the market, lower tariff will not help. Both Korea and Japan, 50% of their food is imported. Then why we are not able to export? It is because we don't have the products which is required. It requires market research. It requires product development. Only then you can break into these markets. Simply by reducing barriers, like reducing tariff, you cannot break into the markets. And this is something which the country as a whole has to understand. You have to have products which are demanded in those countries. They will not buy something only because the tariff is zero. You see the distance from Ecuador, because these products go in refrigerated containers. The port distance from Japan to Ecuador is 70,000 kilometers, while it is about 5,000. So our distance is low, our cost of transportation is low. We are a big manufacturer, we are a big producer of these things, but we don't have marketable products. So it requires both product development as well as market research to know which market wants what kind of products and how we can provide those products to those markets. I don't want to give too much details about these things. You can see and read and check for your own products under various headings, HS code, what is the tariff reduction for various products. Again, you see, these are all the areas which are included in our services export, but somehow it has not moved much forward, because probably except for software, probably the problem arises of communication. Software, generally it's easier to go to another country and work because much of the software work takes place in English language, whether it's in Ukraine or whether it's in UK. But if you have to go and work at a construction site, or if you have to work in a port, you must have local language. So this is a major, in my opinion, major drawback. And some sort of language training has increased in India, like Japanese. Our AMA is providing Japanese language classes. We even have a Japanese teacher for last 2 years in the campus. And so if you want to export or if you want to work in Japan, you must have at least knowledge of one foreign language. So this I have already discussed. We have a preferential trade agreement. You see the products for which, and then you can decide to export to those countries. Under Asia Pacific Trade Agreement, China has reduced tariff for many of the products, but we have a lot of problems because our consignments are held up in Chinese ports, and many of these are being rejected because of the tension and because of Indian stopping many Chinese products into entry into India. So they have also retaliated. So at this moment, this problem is there. Hopefully this should resolve. And if it is resolved, India and 7 other countries have a duty advantage in China. So now you see, as I said, most important thing is This is the last thing I will discuss now, and then I will see what queries are there. Let us see. I ask so many people in AMA, you know, when I hold program, what is the most common food? Meal, not snacks. Meal eaten in Japan. So different people say so many things, noodles and things like that. But actually, the most common food in Japan is curry rice. Now it has a old association with India. I don't want to go into the history of how Indian curry ended up in Japan. But the fact is that curry rice, at least a average Japanese family eats twice a week. What is a curry? It's a liquid base with some meat and vegetables thrown in. There are more than 20,000 curry restaurants in Japan, and they also feature Indian music. Now that Indian music you cannot get in India. That music is specially designed for these curry restaurants in Japan. You know, this is a picture of one type of curry. Now you can see this Japanese curry, Thai curry you can get in Japan, but one curry you cannot get is Indian curry, you know, because we don't understand what kind of curry is required. We don't even know that curry is an important part of their meal. So once we do the market research, then only we can develop. You see, their curry is different. It is a sweet and sour. They don't use too much chili or garam masala and things like that. Their spices are mild, and their base is both sweet and sour. Like we use sweet and sour Chinese, they also. Now, what is the sweetness in Indian cuisine? As Gujaratis, you know, it is jaggery, gud. You know, we have a product called gud, which provides the sweetness. We have another product called imli, which provides sourness. And many of you who like, you know, dahi vada or pani puri, they know that salt is used, which is a base of tamarind. So we have ingredients to produce curries which will appeal to Japanese taste. But you have to develop those products, and then you have to test those products. There are 350 strong Japanese community in Ahmedabad alone. You can try those products there, and if they say yes, then you can take those products, pack them appropriately, and take them to the food exhibitions in Japan. And that is how you start the ball rolling for a value-added product. Now, this is a value-added product. You can command your premium here. Similarly, because of the Japanese occupation of Korea, curry rice also reached Korea. No, it's a big. Sorry. It's a big meal in Korea also. So this is the way you have to go about, not worry too much about free trade agreements, but more about how to create products for a particular market where you can command a premium. We have competitiveness in many areas and huge market in e-commerce. I told you African market will be 3 times. Then China market is 200 billion. Africa is 75 million. Japan is 70 million. Korea is 60 billion. And Asian is about $50 billion. This is the e-commerce market. It is very easy. For example, in Philippines, any product which is below, I think $100 can enter through e-commerce. So that is so we have to make up our minds how to enter the value-added markets, and free trade agreements will be signed with many more countries. They will provide certain advantages, but more advantages can be provided if we do our homework well, if we do our market research, and we produce. And I have not even gone into so many products like snacks and pickles, etc., for which there is a huge market. You see our various books, handbooks on these products, and also get our previously discussed slides from AMA, and then you will know what kind of markets are there for our products. Thank you very much. And now I will see certain, if there are any queries. Let me see chats, some queries. How can we enter e-commerce in export market? We have a separate, now this is this is a very big subject. We have a separate handbook on e-commerce. You please go through it. We also have handbooks on African market, on Chinese market, which gives details about e-commerce in those countries. It's too not possible to give that kind of information in a single sentence. Explain FTA with Gulf countries. We don't have any FTA with Gulf countries. It is stalled for last many years. We do not know. Please share your contact number for future. Please write to me. Email I have already given, or contact AMA. They will pass on the query to me. Anything else? Then let me see what else is there. Slides will be shared by AMA. Okay, so that country. Thank you very much, and thank you AMA for all the support you have given. And I hope you will take away certain messages from this program. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, participant. We will be sharing the PPT of this session. You can just mail whether you want PPT, so that accordingly we send you once we receive from our faculty, Abidi sir.
I've already given you this afternoon. My
Okay,
PPT is with you. So
okay, sir.
you can go about sharing it. Okay?
Yeah, participant, you can mail us that you require PPT.
Okay, I am now leaving this. I have to go to another place. So I will leave this meeting now.
Bye, sir. Thank you everyone for attending this session. Thank you everyone.